everyone, and welcome to my first video of 2021. I hope everybody's doing well and the first month of the year is treating everybody good. I wanted to come back with a 4-part series based off this book called Triggers by David Richo. I got this book, I want to say a couple months ago, and I started reading it right before Christmas, and so far so good. I'm learning so much from this book, getting a lot of new information, and there's so much that you can resonate with in this book. And I highly recommend that everybody read this. And when I mean everybody, I mean literally everybody: your mom, your dad, your cousin, your friend, your sister, your brother. Like, it's so helpful, and it could be helpful to everybody. So yeah, I wanted to make this a 4-part series, and this will be part 1, and then I'll drop a video every month. If you want to get the book, it's called Triggers, and it's by David Richo, and you can start reading along with me. So far I'm on chapter 4, and there's 4 chapters. So yeah, I'm just basically gonna take you guys through the book. I'm not gonna give away everything, obviously, because I want everybody to read it from themselves, but just some of the things that I'm picking up and that I'm jotting down, or that really resonates with me, that I feel like I should share and could be meaningful to somebody. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so when I got the book, I didn't even realize how much of a blessing in disguise it would end up being for me. I just kind of picked it up and it caught my eye. And as I started reading it, I was just like, whoa, like this goes deep, and it could be applied to so many things in my life. And this could really be for everybody. This could really be helpful for everybody. So to start, the book kind of touches on what is a trigger, how to identify a trigger, and basically leads into what you can do to avoid triggers, or effectively, heal and, manage your reactions to things. And I was like, wow, like, this is something that I think everybody could use and apply in their lives. So to start, in this video, we're just going to talk about what a trigger is, what are some examples of triggers, what are real versus imagined triggers, and how triggers can be self-inflicted or be from within. So to start, what is a trigger? And by definition, a trigger is any word, person, event, or experience that sets off an immediate emotional reaction. To my psych and to my science majors, you could say that a trigger is like a stimulus that causes a reaction, right? And like the definition says, it causes an emotional reaction. And the word trigger actually derives from the Dutch word pull. And if you think about it, you can look at a trigger as something that pulls you into reacting a certain way. And that could be with anger, with frustration, with sadness, or whatever it is that, whatever emotion that comes up for you. So again, a trigger is any word, person, event, or experience that sets off an immediate emotional reaction. So then the author goes on to talk about some examples of things that could cause a trigger, such as a sudden loss, or a death, or bad news, you didn't get the job, or a reminder of past distress or trauma. And those are just some of like the main things that could possibly cause a trigger. You could also be triggered by a song, or a scene in a movie, or something that you read. Triggers come in all sizes, big, small, and from all different areas. And speaking of, the author also mentions 9 categories of triggers that most of us can relate to. So I'm just gonna quickly list the 9 categories. Those are all 9 categories of triggers that we can all relate to. And what I really like about this book is how he, puts a lot of things like that make it relatable. It's not just this is what a trigger is. It's this is what a trigger is. And I'm going to show you the different ways that a trigger can present itself. So it's very detailed. And when I'm reading this book, I try to really make sure that I understand, and I'm not just reading to read, but I'm reading to really comprehend and take it all in. So one thing that I'm going to say about reading this book is you definitely have to take your time. Another thing that he talked about was real versus imagined triggers. So some triggers are based off of reality, and others could be based off illusions. And he used this particular example of this guy named Rocco, and Rocco was in the process of moving to a new city because he got a new job. So he put his apartment up for sale, and Rocco, as he's transitioning into this new job, wants to settle down, and he wants a partner, to settle down with him. So as he's, preparing to sell the apartment, a few prospective buyers come to view the apartment, but none of them are making an offer. And so Roscoe immediately goes into negative self-talks, and, he starts saying things like, nobody wants me. And you can start to see Roscoe falling into this hole of feeling rejected or unworthy and lonely. And if you're familiar with my posts on core values, they're beliefs that you kind of embed into yourselves, and some of them may not be the best or the most helpful to you. So you can see how he's falling into this deep hole of rejection and unworthiness, and that's because he's constantly felt, not good enough, right? And so I want to share this passage. Here is one more example of the spectrum experience. We were not given healthy attention in childhood, only scrutiny. Not watched over but patrolled. We did not feel supported but rather inspected, especially to find out if we were staying on the straight and narrow. Later on in life, we might fear attention no matter how sincerely it is given to us. Our spectrum of attention from healthy care and concern to unhealthy scrutinizing has been cut short. We are able to feel only the negative end of it, the familiar end. Now all forms of close attention are triggering. We feel threatened and we react with the same fears we felt in childhood. This leads to the following question: who is triggered? It is not the woman who has become a brain surgeon and runs her department at the hospital. It is the little girl still inside of her who was told over and over again how inadequate she was and would surely remain. It is not the man who has become a Buddhist monk and is trusted by his Sangha to oversee many important tasks skillfully. It is the little boy who was controlled in his every move and trained not to trust himself. The little one inside of us has had his or her amygdala trained into fear, shame, and a sense of inadequacy before we had boundaries to fend them off. The child within us is the one who is triggered. The big adult in us is still often at the mercy of those internal conditionings, no matter what her or his accomplishments, intelligence, or even self-confidence. And so what this passage kind of touches on is the importance of how we're brought up and how it could affect us and the way that we kind of experience things in our adult life, and how we are easily triggered because of those experiences. And if you go back to Rocco, I imagine that Rocco grew up in a home where he wasn't necessarily given the attention that he was needed, and he was constantly scrutinized and made to feel unworthy and lonely. So in his adult life, he is searching to he's searching to overcome those things, and in the midst of doing that, it's showing up in other ways. Like, he was easily frustrated and easily, drawn into that dark hole of feeling unworthy when nobody was willing to buy his apartment, when, in all honesty, people not being interested in his apartment has nothing to do with how worthy he is or how, wanting he is to somebody else. But because he spent all his life feeling like that, he was triggered into, feeling inadequate and unworthy, despite the lack of connection that has to his apartment being sold or not. And so, I found that very interesting, and it was just like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. We can often trigger ourselves into feeling certain things because of the way that we experience life and the way that we come up. And it just goes to show how your childhood has a lot of weight. It holds a lot of weight because no matter how old you are, that inner child is still going to be inside of you. Like he says, who is triggered, it is not the woman who has become a brain surgeon or runs her department in the hospital. It is the little girl inside of her who was told over and over again how inadequate she was. So, when you find yourself feeling certain things like, unwanted or unworthy or just inadequate, think about who is actually being triggered and why, that trigger is presenting itself. So yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting. It was basically kind of like an aha moment, like, wow, like that makes a lot of sense. And then a couple pages after that passage, he goes into talking about inner demons. And I thought this passage was so, so, so very interesting. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It says, an inner demon is a metaphor for irreconcilable, disturbing, and relentless inner conflict. This is another example of an internally aroused trigger. An inner demon has its origin in the past, and it takes many forms. For example, feeling haunted by regret, shame, nagging, guilt, some terrifying past experience that obsesses us. Likewise, when we repress our traumas, they turn into buried ghosts. These become inner demons because the cemetery is inside of us. An inner demon brings a dawning sense of inner collapse, a chaos over approaching, always clutching us. This condition feels like a war within us from which no truce or treaty is possible. An inner demon is a torturer that triggers both anxiety and a sense of powerlessness. It is an ego dystonic that is we cannot integrate it into our sense of normality. It feels alien to us, like a sinister demon possessing us. Inner demons can't fully be named. We are conscious of their presence, but we find it hard to describe what they consist of or what they want of us. An inner demon is ultimately an ineffable anguish. Since healing takes telling of our pain, inner demons are tough to banish. Actually, inner demons are thought forms and pentagrams our ego bought into and now plague us with. Inner demons can lead to a person to addiction or other forms of escape, including suicide. An inner demon cancels our ability to protect ourselves with self-deception. We have to face it, no escape. Likewise, we may feel the demon know us better than we know ourselves, but he knows us in an unsupportive way, the worst way to be known. However, inner demons are not alien or threatening to the higher self, our larger life beyond ego. Our wholeness can accommodate that our conscious ego. We activate this aspect of ourselves by feeling grief about whatever trauma was inflicted on us. If the demon is a regret about something reprehensible, we allow ourselves in the present to feel for what we did. We ask for forgiveness for the past, and we make amends. We commit ourselves to changing our behavior for the future. We love ourselves when we accept our inner demons as legitimate players in our life drama. Then even our instability and sense of incompleteness can be welcomed. In the Buddhist tradition, the great teacher Milarepa tried at first to expel the demons from his home, but finally conversed with them and they were transformed into allies. Our inner demons can be transformed that way too. So, after reading that and, being someone who comes from a Christian home where you're kind of taught not to even entertain things such as demons and spirits, it's like, whoa, what is this saying? But in the last sentence, when he talks about the great Buddhist teacher who tried to expel the demons from his home, but eventually conversed with them and they were transformed into allies. And it says our inner demons can be transformed in that way too. And when you think about it, it's like when you hear the word demon, it has such a negative connotation to it. It seems like you're talking about some sort of witchery or sorcery or some shit. But I think in this context, our inner demons are the experiences in our lives that may have caused harm or inflicted trauma on us that kind of weigh down on us, and they feel like they have power over us. Like he says, we may feel like our demons know us better than we know ourselves, but in reality, they know us in the most unsupportive way, the worst way to be known. And going back to what he says about allowing your inner demons to become your allies, it's all about really sitting there and taking the time to assess, why is it that this experience or this thing that happened to me weighs so much on me? Why does it feel like it has power on me? What does this mean? Where did it come from? When did I start feeling this way? Why is it that the only way for me to escape this is by indulging in things like alcohol or drugs or, partying or sex or whatever it is that you may use to escape the weight of whatever it is that is haunting you or weighing you down? It's really just taking the time to have a conversation with whatever it is that inner demon is and saying, okay, what is the issue and how can we become allies? How can we work together to heal and coexist in a way that's healthy and not harmful to me and my well-being? And I thought that was very interesting. It was like, that's something that I had to kind of, highlight and keep note of, because we all have those things in our lives that kind of weigh us down or have power or feel like they have power over us, and, kind of cause us to indulge in things as a form of escape. And there's power in really knowing what those things are and where they come from, and doing the work to try to heal from them so that it no longer has power over you. So it was very interesting. Love this passage, and that's why I wanted to share with you guys. But yeah, I think I'm gonna stop there. Like I said, this is gonna be a 4-part series. So today we kind of talked about what a trigger is, what real versus imagined triggers there are, and how, triggers can be self-inflicted and come from within. And so the next time I'm going to touch a little bit more on childhood wounds, our early life and the importance of our early life, our ego, and just kind of how to handle triggers and things like sadness. So that will be part 2 of this series. And I hope that you guys will stick around for the entire series and find it helpful, as it has been helpful to me. I'm not done with the book. I'm on chapter 4. It has 8 chapters, so I have 4 more chapters to go. If you want to read the book for yourself, it's called How We Can Stop Reacting and Start Healing Triggers by David Ritchell. Once again, amazing book. See you in the next book.